Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down tonight. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We gonna light it up. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up tonight. We gonna light it up just like the sunrise. We gonna light it up.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year's Eve. Well, the arbitrary day that we here in the Western Hemisphere and other parts of the world have decided is the dividing line between one orbit around the Earth and another. We put it in the middle of winter for some reason, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. So thank you all so much for joining us. Today, I wanted to take a look way the fuck back, not just across this year past, but to many years gone by, to before there was even such a thing as history, to one of the earliest civilizations, a civilization so old that we can't translate their writing. Like literally, we have 3 languages identified from different time periods in this place. One is called Linear B, and it's kind of sort of like Greek, and we can kind of sort of make sense of it. Sort of. Linear A, the predecessor, no one can translate. And the hieroglyphs that gave rise to Linear A, not a fucking clue. So we have history from before history because it's written, but we can't make sense of it yet. And that's fascinating. But what we can figure out tells us of a civilization that, unlike all the warring empires headed by aggressive men, this place was run by women. And for thousands of years, it was not only peaceful and prosperous, but one of the fountainheads of what we now call civilization, because they weren't constantly killing each other over whose god had a bigger dick. They were able to achieve wonders by the standards of the time, including metalworking, pottery, architecture, developing new techniques, philosophy, art. Holy crap, the art, literally thousands of years ahead of its time. But we will get into all of that. I want to present it as a model for what we could have had as a species and what could still someday be if we do better, so to speak. Anyway, thank you all so much for joining us. I see a bunch of folks swinging by. It's wonderful to see you all. Lil of all trades, my frequent co-host, who is a bit under the weather today. I hope you feel better soon, Lil. But Lil uses her member chat to say that necklace is flipping awesome, and I agree. It was an actual Christmas present, and it made me all teary-eyed and shit. It came with earrings too, and I actually meant to put the earrings in, but then the preceding show ended early and I didn't have time. And I'm like, I'm not gonna mess with it on stream. It's fine. But I mean, I really like it. Anyway, thank you, Lil. See, I get a little worked up sometimes, folks, especially when this is how little time I've had. All 4 of these fingers, the nail polish has fallen off of. I still, this way. I still have some on my thumb. The other hand is entirely still Christmas flavored, but this hand, 4 naked fingers. Apparently, my right hand is shit at doing my left hand's nails, but my left hand is pretty decent. I don't know. Maybe I should figure out a way to make my left hand do itself. That sounded wrong. Do not clip that. All right. Hello, everyone. I saw Adrian asking about a thingy next to your name. Yeah, you picked up a gift membership somewhere along the way, and so you get a membership badge. If it's your first time, it's probably a hunk of coal. You get a hunk of coal for Christmas, because that's how fires start, you know. It's actually a thing I used to say to my grandmother. She would threaten me with a lump of coal, and I would get excited because coal, A, it's a rock, B, it may have fossils, and 3, you can burn them for heat. They're very useful. So I would not have minded a lump of coal at all. It would have been a wonderful present. Let me see. I'm sure I have notes. In ancient times, before the patriarchy, before history itself, women ruled, and for thousands of years there was peace and prosperity. I think we covered that part already. Let's see. Anything else? Oh, did you see the show last night? No, not whatever the hell you're thinking of. I mean the transfactual episode that I did last night, because it was good news. The people in a county in Michigan stood up to a rampant bigot and made him look silly. It was a county council member who'd proposed something stupid, and everyone stood up against him, and it was great. Even the other Republicans were like, no, fam, this is not how we do. So yeah, it's so rare we get like good news, especially pertaining to trans and intersex people. So I just want to let you know that's there, because it's like a fucking little party, you know? It's so great. Anyway, I'm sure there's something else must have happened in the past 24 hours I wanted to tell you guys about, but I just cannot put my finger on what. I guess it just isn't important. Oh well, let's go on. So because this is a very, very, very extensive subject with a lot of question marks, it seemed to me the best place to start was actually Wikipedia. Now remember, Wikipedia, what they may have told you in school, it actually isn't that easy to change. Go ahead and try to make a change. Whatever, do something weird, make Dwayne Johnson's real name The Rock, and see how well that goes. But also, the Encyclopedia Britannica did an investigation to determine which is more accurate, Wikipedia or Encyclopedia Britannica. And they found Wikipedia is more reliable than Encyclopedia Britannica. A couple of reasons. The first is there's hyperlinks to all their sources, so you can go check stuff in real time very fast. The second is because it can be updated in real time, as opposed to having to wait a year for the next edition to come out. So it's pretty neat. So we're starting with Wikipedia. The Minoan civilization was a Bronze Age culture, which was centered on the island of Crete. Yes, that's right. The land of the labyrinth, the home of Ariadne, the origin of the term Cretan. There is a reason for that. That is actually a slur for people from Crete, because the Greeks got mad at how much more advanced the people from Crete were. The Athenians were like, we're the smartest people on earth because look at all our philosophers. Look at all the statues we built to Athena. And the fact that the people on Crete were smarter and had better technology really annoyed them. So they started calling them stupid. That's probably apocryphal. Don't quote me on it, because it's probably apocryphal. Known for its monumental architecture, and that's true, the architecture was outrageous for its time, and energetic art. It is often regarded as the first civilization in Europe. The ruins of Minoan palaces at Knossos, we'll just say Knossos, and Phaistos, we'll go with Phaistos, probably. My pronunciation may change. As you know, I am a world-renowned pronouncer of words. It's one of my best skills. The Minoan civilization developed from the local Neolithic culture. I'm parsing that sentence. I'm like, they developed from the local Neolithic culture. I mean, I get why you would say that, to be like, they weren't like Carthaginians who just sailed in and set up shop, like colonized or invaded or conquered or whatever. But I don't know. It's not important. The Minoan civilization developed from the local Neolithic culture around 3100 BCE, with complex urban settlements dating to around 2000 BCE. Now, we need to stress this because this is a little understated. Complex urban settlements. Cities, like not just a bunch of huts in a row. Cities in 2000 BCE. The Greeks wouldn't have anything resembling a city for 1,500 years. Consider that. Just wrap your mind around that. It'd be like if you go backwards in time from the present, going and finding a civilization in the 5th century that had antibiotics. You know? Holy shit, that's way ahead of its time. Oh shit, what have I done? Maybe we'll go to that page later, because that seemed like an interesting page. Anyhow, after circa 1450 BCE, they came under the cultural and perhaps political domination of mainland Mycenaean Greeks, forming a hybrid culture, which lasted until around 1100 BCE. Now, again, this is distant antiquity, and I actually tried to turn up a scholar to help delve into this. I did find a scholar, but he didn't actually know anything about any of this. He said, I'd be happy to just shoot the shit about it, but so we're kind of basically, while there are scholars and experts on this subject, as far as the people in my sphere of influence that I can reach either through me or friend of a friend kind of thing, I'm the closest to a scholar on the subject we have. And that's really unfortunate, because that means I can't learn anything and I'm probably going to get some shit wrong. So bear that in mind, but it's still an interesting topic to explore. There's a lot of cool shit here. And that's the important thing, is understanding there's a lot of cool shit here. And you should go forward and learn more. Everything we cover on this show, you should take what you pick up here as a starting point and go learn more, because it's all really cool shit. But I digress. 1100 BCE, hybrid culture. So Greece wasn't really a cohesive thing until Alexander the Great showed up and made it be. They were all quasi, semi, pseudo independent city states who kind of shared almost the same language sort of deal. They didn't even, as we've discussed previously, they didn't even work together for mutual defense very effectively. Like the Battle of Thermopylae became legendary because other cities wouldn't come fight off the Persians, you know? So it's just, that far back, 1100 BCE, it's not like there was some sort of Greek superstate that conquered Crete. In fact, there is a possibility, asterisk, 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 that it was the Cretians who took over Greece insofar as a cultural domination sort of way, rather than a direct colonization, because the Cretians had the superior technology, the superior resources, the superior education. They had trade goods. They had the ability to trade, and they wanted to trade. The one thing that seems to shape the perspective that it was the Greeks who took them over is that they started using Greek in some of their documents, the governmental stuff. However, it's not impossible that Greek was a better language. And, you know, a lot of scholars who speak various European languages, they will do their scholarship in Latin, because in some ways it's a better language for doing certain things in. Describing organisms, for example. Now, part of that is because other people can speak Latin and it's sort of a neutral language, but that's kind of a bullshit excuse, because you can learn Latin as well as you can learn any other language, you know? It's more that because of the flexibility built into language, whereas English people fight and argue and kill each other over splitting hairs for definitions of words and terms and whatnot, whereas Latin, you could say a word and it just means a whole broad swath of semi-related concepts. You could just throw the concept out there and move on. You didn't have to fight over splitting hairs for specificity, you know? So in some ways it is an easier language, and it could well be that Greek was a better language for running a government with. Potentially. I don't know. In any case, Minoan art, the art, holy shit, the art. Minoan art included elaborately decorated pottery, seals, figurines, and colorful frescoes. We'll get back to that. Typical subjects include nature and ritual. It's for ritual purposes, folks. It totally will. Minoan art is often described as having a fantastical or ecstatic quality, with figures rendered in a manner suggesting motion. And this is remarkable for its time as well, because while there are many ancient cultures in deep antiquity who were able to render artworks in different forms, different kinds, you know, from clay figurines to mosaics, getting motion into a still image is remarkably hard. I mean, today animators can do it with a few squiggly lines, but that's when you're drawing. When you're making a fresco, it's a neat trick. They were pushing the boundaries of art, even while they were producing excellence within the limits of the medium at the time already. And that is a sign of a very healthy civilization. Little is known about the structure of Minoan society. Minoan art contains no unambiguous depiction of a monarch. That's kind of important for a few different reasons. For one thing, there's this later historian retrospective tendency to try to want to take a land and put a monarch in charge of the whole thing. If you're not under the yoke of an authority, you don't actually need that, right? Like, if everyone is, broadly speaking, working together and pulling the boat in the same direction, so to speak, you don't actually need an administration telling everyone what to do. It would be wasteful, in fact, to do that because everyone is already doing that. That said, there was definitely religion. There were definitely temples. There were definitely palaces. We found a couple of the palaces. Someone was doing something in those palaces. Now, that doesn't mean there was definitely a monarch, but it could be that some religious head, like the highest of high priestesses, ran the organization of the church or the temple from those palaces, which were also like the chief temples, perhaps. So much of this is speculative. Or it could have just been a very, very wealthy citizen. We don't actually know. And it's fascinating because while there is a shit ton of history, we don't know yet. The fact that there's so much of this history in plain sight, like these palaces that persisted for hundreds and hundreds of years. Some of the parts of some of these palaces are still around today. And we're not sure why they were built. We know some of the things they were used for over the many, many long centuries, but who built them and why, what their original function was, we're not sure because we can't decipher their history. So from a historical perspective, it's sort of like jangling keys in front of a small child. You're fascinated, but you have no idea what any of it means, you know? But it's right there. And if you could just get your hands on one little piece of information, you could figure out so much, you know? But we're finding new things all the time. It's optimistic, it's hopeful, but there is a chance that we'll unlock linear A any given day, or someone will have a breakthrough with the hieroglyphs and be like, ah ha ha, this shape means this sound, you know, or something, you know? It's a non-zero chance. We may decode the Voynich manuscript first, but it's a non-zero chance. So, no idea about monarchs. Textual evidence. Now, councils, just throwing out, councils are a thing. Not everything needs to be a single authority figure dictating downward. It could be people working together. And we've noticed from modern observation of the way humans behave seems to show that women tend to form councils. That may be cultural. We're not sure. And the culture may have been different in ancient Minoa. But maybe there's no reason you have to have maybe it was mayors of all the different cities got together and made island-wide decisions. That actually seems like one of the more reasonable ways a government could be organized, you know? The people who are running the settlements and the villages and shit. I don't know. Left-handed Jedi suggest maybe they'll find a shipwreck. Could very well be. We've been finding old freaking shipwrecks. A year, maybe 2 years ago, they found a shipwreck from Canaanites, like from actual Canaan. And it was in like way deeper water than anyone ever expected. It was pre-conquest Canaan. Like, that's really old. It's kind of mind-blowing because the historical view of ancient Canaan, pre-Israelite invasion, pre-conquest, was that they were sort of like a backwards fishing village type territory, constantly being conquered by the Assyrians or the Babylonians or the Egyptians or whatever. And maybe that's true, but they weren't just a collection of fishing villages, you know? They were capable of building deep water ships that could undertake international trade. And that's a slightly different picture, you know? It kind of matters. Anyhow, speaking of deep water, if you have a yearning need for the deepest of water, well, We can help you out. Hey folks, I've been working hard on my health, and so far I've lost over 140 pounds. A huge part of good health is hydration. That's why I'm thrilled to partner with Epic Water Filters. Check this out. Not only can you say goodbye to expensive bottled water, but these filters are made in the US, so no tariffs, and they're made to fit your life. From these lovely pitchers I can fill from, to sink units, to portable filters that fit in your reusable bottle. With Epic, I can refill from nature's water sources and not have to worry about bacteria and whatnot. But also, send back a used filter to be responsibly recycled, and they'll send you a free replacement, saving you and the earth even more. Want to save a ton of money, be healthier, and build a better world? Head to epicwaterfilters.com and enter code EMBER15 at checkout for 15% off. Don't settle for random water. Upgrade to Epic. Okay. I'm doing a lot of talking today, folks. I mean, I often do, but like, holy crap. All right. Bree is here. Bree is saying your mom is capable of building deep water ships. It's true. Well, actually, I don't know. My mother specifically was an Egyptologist, undergrad level, but still carried a lifelong fascination. I grew up with like whole cabinets filled with Egyptian replicas, big old Isis statues and obelisks and so forth. She never did get around to teaching me hieroglyphs, though, which is unfortunate because I always thought they were fascinating. Codes in general, and what are languages but another code? The language you speak is decoded for you, but the language you don't looks a lot like a code, doesn't it? I digress. Okay, where the hell were we? Elaborate art, fantastical motion, no monarch. Textual evidence suggests they may have had some other form of governance. Likewise, almost like I said that. Likewise, it is unclear whether there was ever a unified Minoan state. Religious practices include worship at peak sanctuaries and sacred caves. Now, peak sanctuaries, we mean like actually on mountain peaks. They built temples in cool places, which are very, very hard to do. So, I don't know if you've ever tried building a temple at the top of a mountain, but it's pretty hard. Oh, goodness. OM3... I hate the new YouTube names, but we'll go with what we've got. OM3 sent a 1999 super sticker. Thank you so much. And I can't share what it looks like on the stream because the software doesn't work that way, but it appears to be a lemon person standing in front of a blooming bush, doing like a flinging affection kind of gesture, something like that. I'm not really sure, but thank you very much. I appreciate it a lot. And thank you all for being here. I often say one of my favorite things is live shows because I get to interact with y'all. And it means so much to me that you all come to spend time with me, even though it's, the topics we're covering. We're trying to learn things together. But like, you can learn things in lots of interesting places. The fact you're here, I very much appreciate. And if you're watching in the future and you'd like to join us in the live chat, then, you know what to do. You click the little subscribe button. You click the little ringy bell and you say, show me more notifications from member. I want to join them. I want to be in the live chat and hang out with Ember. And while you're down there, maybe click the like and also click the share. Because, the shares, buttons. Who can resist a button? Right? Click the button, click the button, click the button. Oh, now it sounds like an ad for a different kind of website, if you know what I mean. All right, let's get back to work. I really got to mark where the hell I leave off. Textual evidence, right. They may have had some other form of governance. Likewise, it is unclear. You know what? I'll make this a little bigger. Let's make this bigger. There's no reason we can't make this bigger. Let's see. Okay. Likewise, it is unclear whether there was ever a unified Minoan state. Religious practices included worship at peak sanctuaries and sacred caves. We love a sacred cave, don't we, folks? But I digress. But nothing is certain regarding their pantheon. The Minoans constructed enormous labyrinthine buildings, hence the legend, which their initial excavators labeled Minoan palaces. Now, yes, because if you have a giant building, it looks a lot like a palace, doesn't it? But they're labyrinths. Labyrinths. English is hard, folks, and talking is hard, and talking with a prosthetic that does not fit is extra hard. We're doing what we can. Okay. There's a couple of different things. First of all, the hallway was actually an invention, right? Like there are old structures that happen to have them coincidentally, but architects often considered them to be a waste of space. So in order to maximize the utility of a building, you would go from room to room to room to room to room to room to room. Like if you needed to get from the living room to the kitchen, you would go through Jim's bedroom, Bob's bedroom, the reading room, the laundry room, Heather's bedroom, and a bathroom to get to the kitchen. You know, like there were not hallways as a thing. That only came to be later when people started having big open spaces to stick their big chair called a throne in and have everybody come into to show how big and powerful they were. And then you would have you'd have stuff coming off of the hall. So the hall was not just like the main area, like a throne room, but bigger. It was the central area that things came off of. Other rooms spurred off of the hall. And then when rich people started copying what the royals were doing, because of course they did, they would have hallways, which maybe didn't have a throne per se, but you'd have other rooms coming off of to demonstrate their wealth and power. You'd have a central corridor kind of thing. So the point is, way back in the day, we didn't have hallways. Humans just did not have hallways. So you'd go room to room to room to room to room, and it could come off as a labyrinthine. Now, that's not saying that's what they did in the Minoan palaces. I'm actually hoping to learn about this as we go through here. It very well could be it was nothing but hallways all tangled up together. And that would be weird and fascinating. And maybe we'll find out. Subsequent research has shown that they served a variety of religious and economic purposes rather than being royal residences, though their exact role in Minoan society is a matter of continuing debate. Now, this is an interesting thing as well, in sort of a meta kind of way, because for some reason, European historians find a thing and then immediately project their vision of recent history onto the ancient history. Like their very first thought is this must be a royal palace, there must be a king, there must, all of this shit. And there's no reason to. Just because a thing has been a certain way recently doesn't mean that's the only way that thing has always been or could ever be. Like, why? It wouldn't make sense to do it in reverse. It wouldn't make sense to excavate a Celtic ruin in Gaul, in modern day France, and expect there to be a matriarch or a council of women who are also high priestesses. Like, you wouldn't expect that. Now, you'd have better chance of that in Gaul than in, Rome, but that wouldn't be like the expectation, and then you need the evidence to convince you otherwise. That's not how we do anything. That's not science. That's not research. But historians, not all historians, obviously, but the ones who tend to get to make these sorts of discoveries, they always start not from a null hypothesis, but from a modern European history hypothesis. First, like, that's the baseline. And it drives me crazy. It's probably not even historians. It's probably anthropologists, because anthropology, while there is a lot of really useful stuff being discovered by that science as a discipline, there was a whole lot of racism very, very recently, and it's still kind of there in a lot of ways. So, not great. And so you get a lot of Europeans are the best that they've ever been. There's a lot of the way we do things today is the way they've always been done, with only a few exceptions that includes all people in all places in all times elsewhere other than your recent European history. But those don't count because they're not recent European history. It's still sort of a cultural colonialism within what's supposed to be a scientific discipline. It's getting better, and we are getting some really cool information out of that discipline. But it's important to note that taint, that corruption within the discipline is still corrupting things that touch on the discipline, like this idea that single monarchs who happen to be male is the default. It isn't across much of history. I digress, though. Where the hell were we? I really got to mark my spot. I'm too prone to tangents, folks. But people do come here for the tangents. That's why we literally have an emoji for it. We also have merch. Yep, we've got merch. If you visit the link down below, links and more at betterthanember.com, you'll find not only a bunch of ways to help support the show, to help support me doing more of this, but also merch, like shirts that say I'm just here for the tangents, for example. I really gotta I have to make graphics I can pop up for these, because on this software the best I can do is like a QR code. It won't show an image of a thing, so I've got to make images of a thing so I can show it. We'll get to that. Goals for the new year, folks. AJ says, if you're not here for the tangents, what are you even here for? Well, I mean, I can't begin to imagine why someone would want to stare at their screen for a couple hours. Well, I'm sorry. We're doing something, aren't we? Remember when I said yesterday that I was prone to get a little bit off keel because I hadn't slept? I've slept less today. So thank you for bearing with me. My goodness. Jester, who has bared with me for a very long time, and I very much appreciate it, said this is super chat for $5. Thank you, Jester. And says, Europeans do it to our own history too. Oh, I see. Yeah, do the projection thing. Yes. Original Motte & Baileys don't seem to be places to live. They were fortified food storage. That's fascinating. I'd always been given, now again, this is the point, our incorrect understanding from assumptions scholars we trusted made that turned out to not be right. But I'd always been given to understand that they weren't like active dwelling places, but in times of attack you would like retreat into them, like a bomb shelter kind of thing. But I don't know. Interesting. And that's what skepticism is about, is when you're confronted with new information, your default should be, I don't actually know. Let's go find out, And that's pretty neat. Bree says, like Helm's Deep. Yeah, like the fortification is there and the supplies and storage are there. And then you fall back when you need it, sort of thing. And also, I love that Helm's Deep is your go-to for that. That is, Have you all met Bree? You really should, because she's fucking amazing. She does a live show every Saturday, 10:30 Eastern. It's like Saturday morning cartoons for adults about weird sciencey shit. She does Cryptic Corner. She does people doing weird things. This Week in Weird. She does random critters in Bree's Bestiary, and she has so much fucking knowledge. I guarantee you, if you go, you will have a good time. So make sure you subscribe to HiveSci. She's right there in the chat. And if you can't get there from her being right there in the chat, you can find her on my list of creators at betterthanember.com. She's on both lists, in fact. The list of channels that I wish I'd known about sooner, and maybe you'd like to hear about sooner, and the list of people who are on the cast of Java and Jugs. In fact, all the people on the cast of Java and Jugs have a channel, and it's linked in that cast list. and Bree says, thanks for the plugs. And if you need some plugs, no, sorry, wrong channel. Rip Brentley's ad. You were the best ad. Oh my goodness. Yeah, head over to HypeSci now and you can vote on which cryptids and which weird things she talks about this week. You can vote. You can pick the thing and make her talk about things. It's amazing. I digress. I get very excited about community, right? Building community and directing people to things that I think are really cool. And the fact that Bree happens to be a really cool person, completely notwithstanding, she does really cool science-y things, but also she's a really cool person. And it's just, I don't know. I don't want to gush, and I realize I'm in a suboptimal mental state. Bree's a really cool person. All right, continuing on. Where the hell were we? Royal residences, right. Continuing debate. Okay, the Minoans traded extensively, exporting agricultural products and luxury crafts because they could make luxury crafts in exchange for raw materials, which were difficult to obtain on Crete. I suppose I want to make a concrete joke, but I don't think it'll set. Anyway, though through traders and artisans, their cultural influence reached beyond Crete to the Aegean and Eastern Mediterranean. And that is sort of like the key thing is, were they influenced by the Greeks, or were they like the leading party in the influencing? Because they had the traders, they had the artisans, they're not the only culture that did international oceanic trade, but they were the first ones in Europe to do it. And for a very long time, they were the very, very best at it. Like the Greeks literally did have fishing boats at the same time the Cretians were running around in fucking merchantmans, literally merchantmans, you know? And so their art, their cultural influence, all of these things helped shape the region, not just Greece, but Turkey, which at the time was also part of the broader Hellenistic culture. Remember, the ruins of Troy, which was a Greek city-state, was in Anatolia, you know? Anyway, Minoan craftsmen were employed by foreign elites, for instance, to paint frescoes at Avaris. Let's go with Avaris. Fuck it. Tel Adaba. Probably close. Again, my accent, I'm American, very sorry. Are of particular interest to Egyptologists and archaeologists. They are of Minoan style, content, and technology, but there is uncertainty over the ethnic identity of the artists. The paintings depict images of bull leaping, bull grappling, griffin. Yeah, that's very Minoan. And I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning. The thing with women ruling, standing around watching men perform for them, watching men like leap over bulls and whatnot, that's Minoan. That's where that comes from. That's why the legends of Ariadne and the Labyrinth involve a minotaur, because men leaping over bulls, it was a whole thing. Men and bulls, bull men, the bull men of Crete. I hope you get it, because I can't break the whole thing down. It's fine. Oh my. The Minoans developed two writing systems known as Cretan hieroglyphics. Here's a cool example. This little green bar thing here. And They're a Bronze Age hieroglyphic writing during the Minoan era. It predates Linear A by about a century, but the two writing systems continue to be used in parallel for most of their history. And that's what makes it interesting, because it seems like if we can just crack Linear A, we will also be able to crack the hieroglyphs, or vice versa. But since Linear A seems to be related to Linear B, which we can translate, it seems likely we'll crack A first, but we don't know. We don't know. Let's see, because neither script has been fully deciphered. Fully deciphered? The last time I heard, we don't have anything, but never mind. The identity of the Minoan language is unknown. Based on what is known, the language is regarded as unlikely to belong to a well-attested language family. What this means is like they're overarching language families, like Indo-European, like everything from India to all of Europe. Modern European languages are either Germanic or Latin, right? Well, and Greek, but never mind. We don't, the Greeks don't count. And if you go back farther and farther and farther, they start finding common ancestors. And if you go back all the way, as far as linguists have been able to go so far, everything in India and Europe has a common ancestor who seems to come from somewhere around the Black Sea region. And that's fascinating. But the Semitic people have a completely different language family, which seems to originate from Northern Africa-ish. And there's others. Obviously, there are others. And there's probably common ancestors coming back from those that go all the way back to humans in the waves of migration leaving Africa. Because humans probably had language as long as we've been humans. It's just been getting more complicated and more sophisticated over the centuries. And centuries and centuries and centuries. So it's likely that the language families are as related as the humans are. And the distribution mirrors the adaptation and, dare I say, evolution of human cultures as well as peoples. And it's very neat. But the reason it's important here is because it looks like the Minoans had an entirely different language family. Now, I would venture a guess to say they share a lot in common with the Egyptians, because hieroglyphs is, there's a non-zero chance they're related. Because hieroglyphs, because other cultures who started a writing system didn't automatically start with pictograms and basically turn them into emojis and then turn those into letters, right? Like the Celts started with lines in Ogham script. The Norse started with runes, or at least as far back as we've been able to ascertain, runes. Like there's a bunch of cultures where they didn't start with hieroglyphs. The fact that Crete did and Egypt is right there kind of indicates there might be a relationship, but who knows? Maybe the Minoans had the hieroglyphs and introduced the concept to Egypt. We don't know. And that's sort of the point. That's sort of what makes it fascinating. That's sort of what makes it something that I thought would be really cool to look at as we go into a new year. Because if we want to build a better world, if we want better than the world we have today, then perhaps looking at times we have done things better is a good way to go about that. Perhaps, maybe, possibly. Let me see here. I keep reminding me, again, I have not slept much, folks. I'm very fucking sleepy, but I keep reminding myself to mark my place, and then I don't. Okay, after 1450 BCE, a modified version of Linear A, known as Linear B, was used to write Mycenaean Greek. So we're using the linear characters to write Greek words. And this is where the cultural crossover becomes so important, because that became the language of the administration on Crete. The Eto-Cretan language, attested in a few post-Bronze Age inscriptions, may be a descendant of the Minoan language. And it's a fascinating thing how the alphabet's kind of in the post-Bronze Age collapse. At the end of the Bronze Age, there was a major catastrophe and a bunch of civilizations fell apart. And even the ones that didn't, they suffered because so many civilizations fell apart. Trade stopped for generations. It killed entire societies. It's weird and fascinating. Largely forgotten after the late Bronze Age collapse, the Minoan civilization was rediscovered in the early 20th century through archaeological excavation. Now, when was the late Bronze Age collapse? 12th century BCE. Okay, so one of my hypotheses is that Crete and its oceanic colonies are the template that gave rise to the legends that Plato shaped into his story of Atlantis. We can't prove that because there's so much difference between what we know about Crete, what we suspect about Crete, and the way Plato describes Atlantis. And also the fact that Plato says the catastrophe of the loss of Atlantis happened, 12,000 years before his time. And also the fact he describes its location as being in the Black or Caspian Sea, beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which, despite what Americans seem to think, isn't Gibraltar. That's not a Pillars. There are specific landmarks. Basically, where Istanbul is today. There's two big old cliffs as you're heading up from the Mediterranean into the seas. There's two big old cliffs, and they were called by the Greeks the Pillars of Hercules. So Plato very clearly states east, not west. But that's what you get for driving by landmarks instead of just directions. It's a bit of a tangent. I know people come here for the tangents, but there's an interesting dichotomy in the way people give and receive driving directions, right? Like you'll meet somebody and they'll be like, okay, go, a few minutes until you see the McDonald's and turn left, and then go a few minutes and you'll see the Walmart and turn right. Whereas other people are like, drive 3 miles and turn south, and then drive another 2 miles and turn west. Have you noticed that? And the two styles of giving directions are completely incompatible. If you take direction by landmark, you'll give direction by landmark, and vice versa. If someone gives you absolute directions, it won't make any sense to you if you're used to navigating by landmarks. Likewise, if you're used to drive 3 miles and turn west, landmarks aren't helpful, Just a random note. Jester reminds us, Istanbul is not Constantinople. Although, interestingly, the Eastern Orthodox Church, at least the part of it that still operates in that part of the world, still refers to the head of the religion in that city as the Patriarch of Constantinople, even though it hasn't been Constantinople in a very, very long time. But never mind that. It's not important. Okay. I really need to focus. I know I'm so bad at this, but it's fine. Learning is important, but having fun together is also important. And I will stand by that. Okay, right. The term Minoan was coined by Arthur Evans, that jackass, who excavated the Knossos ruins and recognized it as culturally distinct from mainland Mycenaean culture. Soon after, Federico Holbeher and Luigi Pernier excavated the palace of Phaistos and the nearby settlement of Hagia Triada. These names, people, these names. A major breakthrough occurred in 1952 when Michael Ventris deciphered Linear B by drawing on earlier work by Alice Kober. Isn't that always the way it goes? Isn't that always the way it goes? A man discovers a thing by republishing what a woman did already. Especially in that time of year. It's just according to this, Alice Kober was an American classicist, best known for her work on the decipherment of linear B. Educated at Hunter College, Columbia University, Kober taught classics at Brooklyn College from 1930 until her death. In the 1940s, she published 3 major papers on the script on linear B. But Michael Ventus gets the credit by basically writing a paper citing Alice. Fucking hell. The decipherment unlocked a crucial source of information on the economics and social organization in the final year of the palace. And that's a fascinating thing too, because a lot of what we find in Knossos is like just the last year. It's like one of those found footage films, right? Like you would expect there to be receipts scattered around from every year a person lived there, perhaps. But instead, you only find clues from like the last year. A week ago, he called again. And then you find a month before that, this man has been following me. And a month before that, you find there's this creepy guy at work. And you're like, oh shit. In hindsight, you're like, that creepy guy became a stalker and then killed the person who lived there. Holy crap, like that sort of thing. But the fact that it's like just the final year, it's so dramatic. Minoan sites continue to be excavated. Recent discoveries, including the necropolis. Ooh, we love a good City of the Dead, don't we? At Armenoi and the harbor town of Komos. So the modern term Minoan, is derived from the mythical king Minos, who the classical Greeks believed to have ruled Knossos in the distant past. Well, no. Who modern Europeans believe, the classical Greeks believed, but the classical Greeks did not actually say so, but never mind. It was popularized by Arthur Evans, possibly drawing on an earlier suggestion by Carl Hoek. It is a modern coinage and not used by the Minoans, whose name for themselves is unknown. And this is why I get so grumpy about calling them Minoan. Like, I'll say it for easy communication so you understand what I mean, but I hate it because Minos was an asshole that wrecked the civilization. It's like you spend thousands of years with women in charge and everything goes fine. And the minute you let there be one king, it all goes to shit. I mean, there's kind of a moral to that story, I suppose, but I digress. I much prefer calling it the Ariadnean civilization because Ariadne, although from the same legend, Ariadne was the one with the thread finding her way through the labyrinth, is a lot more reflective of the culture, both as a person and as a problem solver. So I like Ariadne, but I mean, that's as arbitrary a name as calling them Minoan, I suppose. C'est la vie. One thing I don't hate, though, is Kelly King, the Detroit atheist queen, gifted 5 Ember ships. Thank you, Kelly. That's amazing. Those went to, I got to scroll back a second here, Judea and Chixie Mary and Veda Goddess. Oh, hey, another goddess. Love to see it. And Uzumakiki. Again, my apologies about pronunciation. And these names are very hard to see on my screen, folks. I'm doing my best. And Seroquel. Amazing. Good stuff. Everybody do enjoy all the fun custom emojis and other member exclusive perks, such as member only videos, member live streams. I do at least one of those a month, sometimes more, and other things besides. There's voting on things and behind the scenes things and all sorts of things. So enjoy, and I hope you like it enough that you become a permanent member, because that helps a lot. I very, very much appreciate it. And I try to make it worthwhile for you folks too, to the greatest extent I can. Okay. Do. Where the hell? Right. The name. The name. What's in a name, folks? All right. Popularized by Evans, Carl Hope. Yes. Their name for themselves is unknown. Probably, just to venture guess, the people. Because when you give humans a chance to name themselves, they will usually come up with something that means the people in their language. Humans are bad at naming shit. We called our planet dirt in every language we name it in, whether it's Earth or terra firma or, well, that's about it. Those are the only two languages that name the planet Earth. Oh my goodness. The Egyptians referred to the Minoans as the Kefitu, I guess, in modern Egyptological pronunciation, whatever that means. It is not known whether this was an exonym or if it was an endonym originating in the Minoan language. Potentially related terms were used by a variety of Near Eastern cultures, and the biblical term Kaftor has sometimes been identified with Crete. So according to this, Kaftor is a locality mentioned in the Bible in which people are called Kaftorites or Kaftorim and are named as a division of the ancient Egyptians. Kaftor is also mentioned in ancient inscriptions from Egypt, Mari, and Ugarit. Interesting. Ryan Kaltastic tells us that in Ugaritic, Arse is earth and Adam means people. Okay, so we could call the planet Arse, and then we would be Arse Adam, because we're dirt people. We're very dirty. Have you heard the evangelicals, the Puritans, the Protestants? They're all, you're all very dirty. You're all very sinful. In case you haven't, in case you, as our good friend Blessed Be, he might say, in case you have forgotten, we have a little video to remind you. Enjoy.
I have a problem with this stuff being normalized across the spectrum, and specifically, like, why push this on kids? Why introduce this to kids?
I am a depraved wretch. I am a great sinner. I'm a worm, completely undeserving of any love or any grace. I'm nothing.
You're incapable of being a good person. You're an evil person. You're a terrible person. At the core fabric of who you are. That's why we need laws. We need laws because we're bad people. All of us are bad people.
You can't spell Pride Month without demon. PRIDEMONTH.
If we don't know who the women are, because they are just people, then we won't be able to pull the women up to equality with men.
We have to try to limit the harm. And that means reducing or keeping down the number of people who transition. And that's for two reasons. One of them is that every one of those people is a person who's been damaged. But the second one is every one of those people is basically, a huge problem to a sane world.
Transgenderism must be eradicated.
The LGBT, transgender, grooming our children's minds is a national security threat. We need to hold people for treason, start having some public hearings, and start executing people.
I will use whatever gives me victory. I don't care about the truth, and I don't care about the law. I care about one thing, the control.
But then they rigged the election, and now we won, so I'm going to be your president.
Then what happened is they rigged the election, and I became president, so that was a good thing.
I agreed with many, many things you said during, in fact, probably more than most other candidates when you were running for president, but I still would not have voted for you because you're an Indian.
I just want to say I feel good about the Republican Party. I feel good about where we're going as a nation. We're killing all the right people and we're cutting your taxes.
It was actually a tremendous blessing to these children for them to be killed and go to heaven and be with God.
We've been hoodwinked. We've been taken in by an ideology crafted by creeps and then pushed on children.
Stop letting people pressure you into thinking.
If they die, they die.
I want to be ignorant, honestly.
Being a Christian doesn't exclude us from experiencing spiritual dryness.
We're bad people. All of us are bad people.
Hell yeah. So you see, if you want to be a dirty sinner, I suppose, let's say, join us. Like literally join us. So hit the subscribe button an odd number of times. But also join us for the new year, because we do this show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Often I'm joined by other people, not so much today, but it's okay. It keeps a variety. It's interesting. And to me, it is interesting. We're doing all kinds of different topics every single day. I'm still prepping next week's shows, but for the remainder of this week, tomorrow, we're going to discuss how you measure a year. Why is new? I mean, yes, it's a Rent reference. I'm a theater nerd. You know you love that about me. But we're talking about, why do we measure a year from January 1st? Why do we measure a year at all? But why that spot? How did we get here? What made this happen? All of these things. It's not like a direct historical quest the same way we often go on, like how did we arrive at this thing, but more like, where the fuck did this come from? Why do we do it? And it seemed like the perfect thing for New Year's Day. So we're doing that. And then on Friday, we're investigating how pseudoscience spreads. That's actually part 2, kind of. I'm doing all of these as standalone, but we're often building on stuff that we've discussed before. We did a show on pseudoscience recently, this month. How does it happen? What causes it? So forth. On Friday, we're talking about how pseudoscience spreads, why it behaves like a mind virus. And that should be a lot of fun too. And then, of course, on Saturday evening, we're doing a debate review. We do debate reviews every other week on this channel, and then on the opposite channel on Mark Reed's. That's why he has an emoji too. And we're finishing off a debate involving William Lane Craig and Professor Patrick Milligan. Peter Milligan. My apologies, I forget his first name, but it's a fun debate. It's wildly entertaining. In his opening statement, Bill Craig laid out a syllogism showing that God is evil, and he's the guy defending Jesus. So awesome. I hope you join us for the exciting conclusion to that debate. And then we'll do a fresh one starting the next week, as we often do. And yeah, plus bonus shows. Bonus shows crop up from time to time, like the one I did last night, Transfactual. And so make sure you have the notifications turned on, because sometimes those pop up without warning. I'm not saying one is going to happen today, but I'm not saying one isn't. So make sure you're subscribed. All right, enough capitalism. Let's get to the freaking chronology. 2 systems of relative chronology are used for the Minoans. The first, based on pottery shards, divides Minoan history into 3 major periods: early Minoan, middle Minoan, and late Minoan. Again, humans are great at naming things. These periods can be divided using Roman numerals, which seems weird and culturally appropriative, but whatever. We're using Roman numerals. EM1, EM2, EM3, which can be further divided using capital letters: LM3A, LM3B, LM3C. An alternative system proposed by Greek archaeologist Nikolaos Plenton divides Minoan history into 4 periods termed pre-palatial, proto-palatial, neo-palatial, and post-palatial. So you see, it's all about the palaces, folks, and that's kind of true, because where else are you going to keep your treasure if you don't have a palace? Even though the palaces are also labyrinths and, whatever. It just kind of shows that we're just arbitrarily dividing this stuff up, right? Because, we can see these 2 time spans, and we've got the early Minoan and the first substage of middle Minoan overlap with pre-palatial. And then middle Minoan 1B and middle Minoan 2 are proto-palatial, and then middle Minoan 3 joins the neo-palatial. It's People are just drawing lines. It's important to know how they're drawing lines. So if they refer to a given period, you know what the fuck they're talking about. But I mean, we have years. We could just use the years, right? We could just refer to a period as 3100 BCE. We don't have to be LM1A neopalatial, you know? It's just 1700 BCE. You know? There's an easier way to do this. We don't have to make up random shit to overcomplicate it. Anyway, establishing an absolute chronology has proved difficult, and that, in fairness, is why there have been proposals of other ways. Like, we can find a thing is earlier or later than another thing, but when specifically that thing isn't always obvious. C'est la vie. Archaeologists have attempted to determine calendar dates by synchronizing the periods of Minoan history with those of their better understood contemporaries. For example, Minoan artifacts from LM1B have been found in 18th dynasty contexts in Egypt, for which Egyptian chronology provides calendar dates. However, dates determined in this manner do not always match the results of carbon dating and other methods, the ways we do the natural sciences. Much of the controversy concerns the dating of the eruption of Thera, which is known to have occurred towards the end of the LM1A period, while carbon dating places this event, and thus LM1A, around 1600 BCE. Synchronism with Egyptian records would place it roughly a century later. It should be noted, volcanic eruptions can fuck up carbon dating, because you know what comes out of eruptions? Ash and carbon dioxide and burning things in lava and destruction, and a lot of carbon. All of these things produce or include a lot of carbon. And so we can't actually carbon date rock per se. I mean, you can, but it won't turn out very well. It's organic material, like textiles and things that we carbon date. And if they're exposed to like a volcanic eruption, it can give you bad results, but that's not super important. What is important is to understand that our current structure of calendars, which we will talk about tomorrow, isn't the only way to do things. It's that same sort of modernism, that projection of what we do now is both the right way to do it and the way it has always been done. And that's just not so. In the English-speaking world, we didn't even use this calendar that tells us it's 2025 until the 18th century. We've only been doing it for a couple hundred years. Now you might be thinking, but the calendar's over 2,000 years old. What do you mean we've only been using it since the 1800s? We didn't use it. Other countries did. The Catholics did. Not since the year 0. They made it up somewhere in what we now call the 3rd or 4th century. But they went, I reckon the birth of the Jesus was probably around about this time. It was a guesstimation. Centuries later, but not important. Prior to adopting this calendar, the English-speaking world used the regnal year, which is to say, in the 3rd year of the reign of King George the 16th or whatever. We would refer to years in terms of who the monarch was and which year of their reign it was. That's why English school children still have to memorize all the monarchs in order to this day. It's not because it's still relevant to how they number the year. It's an ingrained tradition left over from back then, when that's how they numbered the year. And also so they could understand historical documents that refer to dates in that fashion. Like, for example, if an English school child wanted to learn about the American Rebellion in what we now call 1776, in those historical records, it would say something to the effect of in the 10th year of the reign of George III. For example, so our dating system is neither absolute nor necessarily the best dating system. We're just projecting that onto the past. And so there may be discrepancies between the local dating system, our current dating system, and the science that can help us ascertain a true date for things. Our system doesn't necessarily get it right. Left-handed Jedi, however, does. By sending us a $10 super chat, thank you, Jedi, and says, okay, my brain went to pottery. Did you know they used a computer to scan the lines on ancient pottery and retrieved background sounds while the pot was being made like a photograph record? I did not, and holy shit. So they did a 3D scan on the lines on ancient pottery. So like when the pot was spinning and they're like forming the thing, the vibrations in the spinny things acted like the grooves in a record, recording ancient sounds. I can see that working. I can see that happening. But holy shit. I would have never, like, I could, that's the kind of thing you can't make up. Like, I would have never imagined that. But I could see that happening. Like, it's plausible. It's believable. I want to learn more. But right now, we have to focus on the damn Minoans. Rip. Origins. Although the stone tool evidence suggests that hominins may have reached Crete as early as 130,000 years ago. Evidence for the first anatomically modern human presence dates to 10 to 12,000. What is YBP? YBP, years before present. Okay, now that's another term that needs some clarification. No, Jedi, don't. Jedi says sorry. Don't be sorry. I love learning interesting things like that. It's one of my favorite things. I very much appreciate it. So don't apologize. I'm just like, there's so much I want to get to, and it's mostly me. I keep distracting myself, but still, I need to rest before I do a show, but sometimes it just doesn't work that way. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. Where the hell were we? Right. Present day. That has a specific meaning in history, in dating, in science generally. Modern means 1950. So if you say years before present, you mean years before 1950, because that's the baseline for most of our radiocarbon dating techniques. We calibrate them on how far they are from 1950. And that's an important thing to know, not only for reading historical stuff that references dating techniques, but also for using dating techniques yourself. Because if you try to carbon date something and you get a result of 200 years, you got to remember that's 200 years from 1950, which is now 75 years ago. So it's closer to 300 years from today. And that's important to keep in mind, you know? Let's see. The oldest evidence of modern human habitation is a Neolithic farming community, the remains of which date to about 7,000 BCE, 9,000 years ago. And that by that, it's the oldest remaining evidence of modern humans living there. And it's a farm. Like, I don't know if it, there's a difference between being an agriculturalist and having a farm. There's certain elements of technology and structural organization that are required to make what we would consider to be a farm possible. For one thing, you need peace generally, because if you're trying to grow food in a war-torn land, soldiers and raiders will come through and steal all your food. So that's kind of important. But also you need tools, you need equipment, you need social organization, you need there's levels of infrastructure even for the most primitive farms to actually work. So there's more to it. The fact there was a farming community is already surprisingly advanced for the time. A comparative study of DNA haplogroups of modern Cretan men showed that a male founder group from Anatolia or the Levant is shared with the Greeks, which makes sense because Crete is very, very close to Greece. And so the human population that first arrived there, or at least most recently arrived there, would have likely have an ancestor in common with Greece and Turkey and what's now Palestine, that general area, it tracks. The Neolithic population lived in open villages. Fishermen's huts were found on the shores, and the fertile Masara plain was used for agriculture. And that's pretty neat. That's a neat little picture of it. And also, here's some art. An early Minoan, and by early Minoan, they mean the period, as in the 3000 BCE range, bird-shaped vessel. Now let's get a closer look at this because it's really neat. Remember, this is early Minoan. It's art, but it's also functional. It's a jug. Here's the body of the jug, and here's a long neck, and it's sculpted and it's arted. There's an attempt to make it look like a thing. It's got a support that's also a handle, so you're not holding it by the neck that you pour from. It makes it easy to tip. It's ergonomic. It has feet to help it stand so it won't tip over, but also they're part of the shape of the thing. This is form and function in a really cool way. And it's also artistic in that it resembles a critter. I don't know as I'd say it's a bird. Maybe to me it looks like a long-necked turtle, but that's art. It's interpretive, The point is they made art out of a thing, which indicates several things. They had the ability to make custom stuff. They had the luxury for artists to do art, even if they were doing it in a craftsman sort of fashion. There's a lot of things that this indicates, and it's really neat. Bree says, I thought it was a gazelle. Could be. I don't know why they think bird. I would be interested to speak to a scholar who thinks it's a bird and find out why. In fact, before we go on, I want to scroll through some more of these images because I really, really want to show you guys some of the art. The history is fascinating, but the art is so cool. So let's do some of that. This is not art. This is the western facade or facade, or however that fuck that's pronounced, of the palace at Knossos. Knossos here. It's a very dry place. Knossos. But if you're in a very dry place, you know what you can do. You can go to epicwaterfilters.com and enter code EMBER15 at checkout for 15% off. Just saying. If you need to get wet. Oh my goodness, I have not slept enough. Oh, but one thing that's definitely making my day brighter is OM3 GA Star. I like that. Sends a $49.99 super sticker. Thank you so much. That's really cool. I very much appreciate that. Thank you so much. And again, I can't show the picture because the software doesn't carry the thing over, but it looks like it's a fox in a kimono jumping into a star field and waving while fireworks go off. And that's pretty neat. That's pretty cool. So thank you. I appreciate that. That's thank you very, very much. That's very cool. It's Omega Star. Oh, okay. It's lead speak. I'm such a fucking noob. Again, I haven't slept. Forgive me. But yeah. It's so obvious now that you point it out. And I'm like, you learned this on day 3 of the internet in 1997. Oh, goodness. Oh. All right. Here's some cool art. This is a marine style vase from 1500 BCE. 1500 BCE. Nearly 4,000 years ago. And it looks like cartoon eyeballs on this giant squiddy critter, doesn't it? Like this could be someone, this could be something an artist drew today, right? Like amazing. It's fucking neat. I don't know. See, this is why I was so excited. I realize I nerd out about art like a fucking crazy lady. I get it. But like there's a reason for it. Like look at this. It isn't just a flat bottom, it's a shaped raised bottom. It's got art all over the damn thing. There's cracks so you can see it's been repaired over the years, but also the shaping of it. Once again, we have the neck, but we also have the handles as separate, which is important for pouring purpose. It just, there's so much to this. It was clearly something that was well used, and to take something that's used and make art about it, it just, I mean, we can see right here, this ring, there's another flat area. So it's also designed so you can lay it exactly on 90 degrees on its side. But the design, the craftsmanship of it, very cool. Really top notch for its time, but the fucking art, and to put art like this on a tool, this isn't a decoration for a rich person's house. This is a thing that was used. And to get that art to last, remember the fucking thing is almost 4,000 years old. And it looks like it could have been drawn a couple of years ago. Now, maybe it's been restored. I don't know, but it's really neat. Now I can't figure out how to unbigify the image. I've lost my magnify thing. What have we done? All right, let me see if I can full screen this. If I can find a way out. You know what? I'll just hit the back button. That'll do. Duh, Ember. Oh, Andrew says, I want to know what kind of paint or ink that is and how they applied it. For real. If you want your design, your mural, your whatever to last for thousands of years, wouldn't it be funny if it were squid ink though? Like if they made an octopus drawing out of, well, maybe octopuses have ink as well, don't they? Am I mistaken? Am I drunk? I'm probably not drunk because I haven't had anything to drink except for, obviously epic water, but also coffee. You gotta have the coffee. Oh my goodness. Whose idea was it to do a morning show? But yeah, octopus ink, I assume, perhaps, maybe, something like that. Whatever the case, it's very cool. Bree says octopuses do have ink. Yes. Fuck yeah. I got something right. Go Ember. This is another part of the Palace of Gnosis, the largest known Minoan palace. And you see, it is kind of ruins-ish, but a lot of it is still here. And this is fucking remarkable because we've seen ruins, right? Like we've seen the Greek ruins, we've seen Egyptian ruins, we've seen Roman ruins, we've seen Celtic ruins. Look at the state of these things. While big parts have collapsed over the many, 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 many centuries, it's true. But there's whole sections that appear to still be essentially intact for thousands of years. Like, look at this. Look at this. Like, there's another section down here that's basically in the same shape as this is. And, like, the concrete is still there. We can't do that today. Even now that we've rediscovered Roman concrete, we can't do that. We can't make concrete that will not crumble. Now, maybe it's not concrete. Maybe it's solid stone slabs. But if that's the case, that's kind of impressive in an entirely different way, isn't it? The columns, which also look kind of concrete-like. I don't know. Maybe I'm silly. Now, I'm positive the paint had to be redone overall after all these years. But like, there's still visible art in the background. Not that guy. I mean, maybe his name is Art. I don't know. But like this mural on the fucking back wall here. Now, probably that has had to be retouched. Maybe. I don't know. But like, to have art that's persisted this long, in some form or fashion. It's amazing. It's absolutely mind-blowing to me. Here's a painting from Akrotiri. Okay, I think I was right. Akrotiri. Modernly titled Ship Procession. And this, again, it's a painting, it's a stylization, but it shows, if not the culture they lived in, the way they perceived things to be, right? Like you could make a religious implication sort of thing, how there's like a protective dome over things. So maybe they were part of the dome culture, God created a dome, which could come from the north as well as from the Levant. Remember, the cosmos is inside Ymir's skull, according to the Norse. So, domes for days, as the case may be. But we've got buildings, complex buildings. Like there's people up top, which, among probably other things, indicated that people lived up there. We've got different colored buildings. We've got buildings stacked on top of buildings. It's disorganized. It's chaotic, but it's also beautiful. It's a civilization. It's a city. And then we've got the ships going by, which demonstrates more of their technology. But the fact it's so organized and so structured, even though it's chaotic, it's organized. Honestly, future people, hello, future people, they're going to look back at the way we live today and be like, look, they had all these streets and straight lines, but they also had buildings where people lived in different apartments. It doesn't make any sense, It looks organized, but also chaotic. To us, this looks chaotic, but also organized, Chixie Mary says it's not actually painted because it's a fresco. They permeated the plaster with minerals and then put it on the wall. That's fucking neat. And that's a good way to make shit last, isn't it? Is you turn the plaster, you fill it with minerals. You make it, it's not a painting, it's stone. It's colored stone. That's a good way to make shit last. In a way, painting, you might say, is like the discount version of doing this. It's pretty neat. Chixie Mary says it's a boat parade and people are standing on the rooftops nearby watching. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's it's not just representative of people living there. It's they're watching the festivities. So yeah, that's great. But also style of dress. Like looky. So you've got the men doing the rowing, the oof business, and then you've got the women. There may be some men mixed in here, we don't know, but like everybody's wearing togas and colorful footwear, and there's so much we can learn from these things. It's so cool. What the hell is this? Oh, it's a copper ingot. Clearly, Eon Nasir was not here because that's some fine copper. I mean, it's still ingot shaped after all these years, and copper does turn this color. So yeah, it's fun. I don't know. I have a soft spot for metalsmithing too. It's the oof business. Yes. We pick things up and put things down. All that sort of stuff. Absolutely. Okay. Cretians, I already forget the Egyptian pronunciation, but the Khufutu. That sounds like a curse or a sneeze. Khufutu. Anyway, Cretians bringing gifts to Egypt in the tomb of Rechamir under Pharaoh Thutmose III in the 15th century BCE. So this is Egyptian art done in a Cretan style showing Cretan people, which is pretty neat. So I guess these are the gifts as the Egyptians might depict it. Possibly. I don't know, but it looks like cool stuff they've got there, like really fancy vases. There's some kind of dangly thing that's mostly lost by the broken plaster. And we've got this big golden vessel with all these decorations on the side. Oh, that looks neat. This looks like a pillow. but it's also the same shape as the ingot we just saw. So maybe it's representative of a big fucking ingot of some metal or other, if that's how Cretan ingots looked. But maybe it's a pillow. I don't know. It's there. Another interesting thing is we've got this palimpsest effect, and this is probably just because it was done in a lighter fashion or whatever, but it looks like it's intentionally faded. We've got these what look like cartouches that may be being used as cartoon bubbles. I don't know, but we can see hieroglyphs, or at least symbols of some kind within them, but it's so faded it's hard to tell what they are, and that's really neat too. Deviant says that's not a pillow. I kind of figured, but I'm being silly. I'm being facetious. I'm gonna call things and try to make y'all giggle. Yes, Jedi says, "Oh God, was it an ancient My Pillow ad?" Heck no! And get the vertical chicken cooker absolutely free. Oh my goodness! All right, we're technically at time, but I want to do a little bit more. We'll speed run a couple more. Big fresco from Gnosis. This is, oh my goodness, I can't even get into all of this, but like, look at the fucking detail. Look at it. Look at it. Behold, even the people, like, this is the women's style of dress, and it's all women playing the instruments with the fucking hand harps and whatever those are called. And now we're carrying the pictures and things. And you can see there's bits of brighter color that are broken off and then dimmer color underneath. So some bits survive better than others. And yeah, toplessness. They didn't have Puritans. They didn't have Christians telling them they need to, cover up in the same way. And then we've got other people who I can't be sure, but they look like they're depicted as somewhat different. I don't know, but it's really neat how it's such a big piece of artwork and it's so detailed. And now there's layers of I mean, not just the art, but like the history of it. How there's these parts that have more color and parts where the color seems to have broken off in some fashion. And it just, the history of how that happened is itself fascinating. Let's see. Here's another one. This is called the Spring Fresco from Akrotiri on Thera, because it wasn't just Crete after all. And yeah, I really enjoy this kind of thing because it's a massive artwork that, I mean, it's across multiple walls and it's not exactly small, right? Like, this is a huge image file, and even on my stupid fast internet, it's taking a while to load. Like, look up close, and there's details on the fucking plants. Like, it's so cool. Granted, there's a lot of empty space, there's a lot of negative space, but there's a lot of very detailed space as well. Like, there's stuff underneath these plants. It's called the Spring Fresco, which I guess would mean it's about blooming and whatnot. But maybe I'm seeing things, but it looks like people underneath, like the people in the underworld or something. Chixie Mary says, there's layers of, I mean, not just the art, but like the history of it. I should say open breast. I guess that's a continuation of a previous caveat, which we have Puritans. They didn't. The Cretan style was to wear, an open breast on clothes. Okay, that makes more sense. So yeah, and that does make more sense, both historically, lack of Puritans, and for clothing reasons, because I don't know if you're aware, folks, but there's other ways to support these things that are a lot more comfortable. It's just Puritanism stuck in our culture that makes us cover up all the time. That's not to shame anybody who wants to. Sometimes it's wonderful to have colors and things in this general region, but I can't complain. I went to a lot of trouble to have these, but still, there are better ways to put them on display, if you know what I mean. Of course, there's more. We could go on and on and on because there is so much cool shit that came out of this culture that, as far as we can determine, was matriarchal and non-authoritarian. And they did so much with it for so long. Maybe we'll get into it more someday. Maybe, I mean, if we ever crack Linear A, we're definitely gonna dive in because I want to learn all the things. But that's gonna do it for today, and for the year, apparently, because it is New Year's Eve. Join us tomorrow while we do the nerdy thing and break down why the fuck we celebrate a new year on January 1st. Why is it even January 1st? Like, why do we do it? Why, how, etc. And also the history. How did we do it in the past? What alternatives are there? How did it evolve? And were there better ways and we're doing it stupidly now? Or is now actually the best way, kind of? Find out with us tomorrow, next year, right here on Hot Topic, every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern. In the meantime, thank you all so much for joining. I appreciate the hell out of you all being here. It's been a really good day. As silly as I've been, it's been pretty good so far. And y'all are a big part of the reason for that. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned some cool shit. I hope it made you think. And I hope you take that forward into the new year. Because building a better world requires knowing about what came before, among many other things. And also being involved, being part of the community. Appreciate that too. I'm just babbling at this point, so I'm going to sign off. Thank you all so much. Have yourselves, above and beyond everything else, a safe and joyful holiday. And we'll see you again soon. Mwah. Thanks to all our patrons and top-level members for December. Miranda, Karen Butcher, Jessica the Transmetal Alchemist, Robin Webster, Maya Adkison, Jimmy Tux, Ian Chen, Lilith, Ember Lynn, The Barely Bearable Atheist, Eric Wander, Jason Jacoby, Lil of All Trades, Deviant Outcast, Kelly King, the Detroit Atheist Queen, The Mighty Filbert, Secular Feelinist, and Geo Sam. And you can add your name here next month by signing up at patreon.com/betterthanember, or by joining Emberships here on YouTube at the Cinder level, which includes all the custom emojis, tons of member-exclusive content, member-only live streams, and a bunch of other stuff. I deeply appreciate all the supporters who keep this channel going. Thank you so much. Because of you, we're building a wonderful community that I'm very proud of.
Just like